Call the meeting to order. Do the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first thing we do before roll call, after a couple of years, we're fortunate enough to have two new board members, and I'd like to introduce them to everybody and just have them say a few words, no more than an hour, all right, on their background. First is Jeff Rosenthal, to my right.
Well, you first made the mistake of giving a lawyer an hour. I'm a retired attorney. I was admitted in 1979. I held any number of positions. I was a private practitioner. I was an assistant DA in 2 counties. I was city court judge in Amsterdam and then worked for the governor's office of regulatory reform under 4 governors. And I'm honored to be a new member and a member of the board. I own a home on the lake, and hopefully I can provide some positive insights and inputs and help this organization fulfill its mission.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
To my left, Tony Netto, who is from Watertown.
Correct.
From Watertown.
Yeah, I'm from Watertown. I'm a practicing attorney. I have my own practice with 1 partner. Married. I got 2 children. Don't live on the watershed or any of the rivers or lakes, but looking forward to being a contributing member of this board.
Thank you. With that, Mr. Ferrer, the roll call.
Mr. Chairman. Mark Finkel.
Here.
Thomas Stover.
Here.
Albert Hayes.
Here.
David Bergstresser.
Here.
Anthony Netto.
Here.
Jeffrey Rosenthal.
Here.
Michael Clark.
Here.
Robert Leslie.
Here.
Robert Fulton.
Here.
John Hudson.
Here.
Richard Ferrara. Here. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Motion to adopt or revise the meeting agenda. We need to revise it. We have the need to go into a quick executive session, and if you do have the agendas, it will be between 8 and 9. We'll have a very quick executive session so we can act on something in the executive director's report. So I'd like a motion to...
you need a purpose for the executive session, and
Would
that
be to
purpose
discuss-
would be collective bargaining.
Collective bargaining.
There's also one other revision to the agenda, which would be the addition of a resolution to approve the amendment to the contract with Kleinschmidt authorizing payment for an update to the hazard classification.
Okay.
For the work at Hawkinsville.
That would be item 8B.
Okay. You still
9B.
have,
9B.
9B. Sorry.
did we get a second?
I second it.
Any further discussion on the...
The first was, I'm sorry,
Mr. Stover.
Mr. Stover. Thank you.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed, okay. I don't know if we have any guests. I have not seen a list of, did we have somebody who wanted to speak? Oops. No, that's okay. We have 1 speaker, for Peter.
Good morning. I lost my list. Good morning.
Good.
I'm Dr. Peter Beyer, President of the Great Sacandaga Lake Association. This morning, I'd like to take just a few minutes of your time to congratulate the 2 new members of your board and to thank the previous members for their service to the lake community. Not that your service is done, but thanking you for the service that you have. The board positions have been long in coming, and some would say overdue. Workload which was placed on the few can now be extended to a larger circle. I note from the descriptions on the regulating district website that the population of attorneys at your table has increased from 1 to 3. Welcome to the 2 new board members. I welcome Mr. Nito. I look forward to speaking to him. I spoke briefly to him before about the lake community and the role of the Great Sacandaga Lake Association to make sure to remedy that deficiency. I also welcome Mr. Rosenthal for his service to the lake during the permit regulation discussions a few years ago. Good luck with your deliberations, both of you. Please don't hesitate to call the Great Sacandaga Lake Association if we can get assistance. I looked into the GSLA vault prior to the meeting, but could not find any decoder rings. However, we do have some nifty refrigerator magnets, which will help remind you of the lake community in your future deliberations about lake issues. Now listen closely. With the power invested in me, I make this presentation to previous board members for their service and to newly welcomed board members for their future contributions to the Great Sacandaga Lake. Thank you. Matter of fact, I have some more even for staff, but we'll do a separate investment for them. So here you go.
Is there any problem accepting this, right?
I think that this is under the, isn't this under the amount of money?
That is a nominal gift.
Thank you.
I'm sure with all the attorneys here, we can figure it out. Sir? I call it an icebox, but I had to get cleared to use that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
First day you get a gift. I got yelled at the first meeting I went to.
I didn't know if you were done, okay. I didn't want to cut you off. Okay, this is our second meeting, discussion on the Hawkinsville Dam project. Open to public comment, and first of all, is there any updates?
The only update that I have, I think the new information, conversations that we have had with representatives of Black River Farm and Gilbert Butler. I haven't spoken to the owner directly, but the representatives, and they actually have an on-site meeting scheduled for tomorrow morning. As you recall, the proposed remediation involves use of a piece of private property, placement of an earth berm across that probably quarter to a third of an acre, I would say, from the abutment of the spillway to the east toward Edmonds Road. And so I am planning to meet, I believe our executive director is also, at least last time I spoke to him, was also going to meet with the representative tomorrow morning.
Could I ask you, for the new board members, to just give us a 5-minute description of what we're talking about?
Sure. We have a dam that on the Black River in Boonville, in Hawkinsville actually. It was originally part of the portfolio of the district with the intent of creating a significantly large reservoir at that location back in the 60s. That project didn't go very far, and since that time the district has just been maintaining or at least just kept it in the portfolio, and it needs some repair, it needs some work, it needs to have remediation or removal in order to be compliant with dam safety regulations. And so we have a consultant who's examined a removal alternative as well as a remediation alternative, and they have since completed their study, and the board is considering those two options as well as listening to the comments that the public has on both options. And since the most economically viable alternative, which is the one that Kleinschmidt has proposed at this point, involves placement of some earth and fill on the private property. We're now exploring that need to use that private property, and it's going to start tomorrow with that visit. So,
Do we have any options if we can't get use of that land?
there probably are options. It could affect the permanent water elevation and upstream of the spillway. It would probably involve either adding additional gate structure, so certainly additional cost, and or possibly lowering the spillway and maintaining it at a lower elevation so that at that design flood we don't have water running through the Black River Farm property. And there definitely could be some options, but it probably will come with at a cost and additional cost, and certainly additional study cost outside of the scope of the work that Kleinschmidt has right now too.
Thanks.
Any questions on that? There are certainly a number of people who live on that reservoir. In fact, some of them are represented here, who obviously are looking forward to us choosing to repair the dam.
Right. Yep. Yes, that's fair to say. I don't think I've received any comments that were in favor of removal at this point.
And in sort of a straw vote by this board last month when we were talking about it, all of us seemed to be in favor of, if we can, fixing the dam. But it really all depends on this piece, whether that price goes through the roof or it actually costs less to repair the dam than it did to take it out. So
Yes.
but that's a pretty delicate balance. So any other discussion, comments from anybody on that? Okay, then we move right to approval of the board minutes from the June 10th meeting.
Chair.
Oh.
Is there a public comment?
That's what I was just asking for, I'm sorry.
We're looking at the board, I thought
Oh, no, sorry.
Okay.
Please.
My name is Sharon, I'm from Boonville, from the Save the Hawkinsville Dam. Most of you are aware of who I am, so I'd just like to introduce myself to the two new members and say, I know our group is very pleased that there are additional members now on the board. As was already stated, we're very happy to see you on the board. My concern, one of our concerns, is that 4 weeks ago at the June 10th meeting in Inlet, it was stated that the Hawkinsville Dam study would be up on the website shortly. As of yesterday afternoon, it is still not up on your website.
Say again?
I'm pretty sure.
There was a link there that was functioning.
It was,
I went
A
to-
couple of days.
I had confirmed it twice, so unless somebody had removed
Okay,
it
could you
or.
explain, because I went to every single link and I could not find it. Like, what is it? It's not under news and bulletins.
Did she put it on the internal site, not the external site?
No, it's not.
No, it's linked through
we'll
the
find it right now.
webpage, the webpage for the project.
So would you mind just step by step telling me, because
Reports, policies, and procedures, probably.
Yeah, if you go to the Hawkinsville webpage, did you get it ready, Rick?
Yeah, so,
Black River Watershed.
You go all the way down to the bottom.
oh, wow.
It says draft Hawkinsville Dam final study in a light
News and
blue.
bulletins.
so we go news and bulletins,
Right.
and then scroll down.
Okay, so it's not at the top. I
No,
think.
no, it's right here. See, if you scroll down, you click here for information on Hawkinsville.
Now you see that every entry has a date.
Right.
It starts with the most recent at the top, or excuse me, the original entry at the top, which includes the project summary and the background,
Okay.
and additional entries.
Is it possible to have that under the general news and bulletins, just a message to go to specifically, because I think a lot of people are going to the general section news and bulletins. And, what I saw, the last thing I saw was, months ago about Hawkinsville, and then it went further back as time went back.
We can put it in a place that will be much easier to navigate to. So I hear what you're saying. We'll get it in a place that it's easier to navigate to. I just can't without getting out on the website.
Do you know when that was put up on the website?
About 3 or 4 days after the meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, thanks. Because that was a concern, because as you know, a number of the property owners in the impoundment area live out of state, everywhere from Texas to
Sure.
Missouri to Illinois, et cetera. So they're not able to access the 7 copies that were left with the town of Boonville.
Right.
And I was wondering, the September meeting was originally scheduled for Loudville. Is that still in the plans, or are you going to switch that to Boonville?
We'll have to discuss that. I don't think it's been discussed.
Because there is no August meeting.
Right, we don't know.
And just regarding Mr. Polkin's brief update concerning the owner of the property, his name Mr. Gilbert
Butler.
Butler. So basically, if he's not in agreement to selling, then there would have to be some modifications to the rent. If the decision ends up being, you know, remediating the dam, and if he's not agreeable to selling the land you need, then there would be some modifications made to the height of the dam, which would affect the
Well, that
water
could be a
level.
possible alternative. I mean, there are a number of different alternatives, and that could be one of them. Another one could be additional gated structure. So
It may not be a total transfer of the property either we're talking about. It could be an easement.
No, there's
a permanent
there-
easement for the
right,
purpose of.
Right. There are other decisions that can be made along the way that would also play a part in determining what the best remediation is.
And since there is not another board meeting until September, if any other important occurrences happen, will they be put up on the website, or do we have to wait until September to find out?
Well, if there's news that we can place up there that doesn't require board, us to provide the board with first, then we would put it up there. If it's something that requires board acknowledgement, then it would certainly have to wait until after that September meeting. But it would be on the project webpage, though.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else? Comments? I need a motion to approve the June 10th board meeting minutes.
So moved. Albert. Second.
Any further discussion or corrections? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Report of the executive director.
Mr. Chairman, my report is on page 23. I will take any questions that anybody has. I would like to note, though, that during the last month I've traveled to Watertown and the Black River area a couple of times for a couple of different reasons. And not the least of which was met with the Jefferson County Attorney regarding unpaid assessments in the Black River area by Niagara Mohawk, specifically in Jefferson County. I expect that, I would imagine that our council will also may or may not discuss that with you, but bottom line is we're seeking to recover those unpaid assessments for the last several years and that issue is still ongoing, and I'll update the board as we have more information. Also, one other thing before I forget, we did attend an audit closing meeting with the Office of the State Comptroller. We expect to see although we have not seen it yet, we expect to see a draft of their final report relatively soon. Most likely, certainly between now and the next meeting. So when we do get that, we will advance that to copies to board members. And essentially, their findings were nothing of any real substance, just some procedural things that we need to correct, including the method in which we recover or attempt to recover unpaid debts. For example, Niagara Mohawk and the White River area. But at any rate, we will see that report, I would expect before the end of this month. The meeting was a couple of weeks ago, so I'll distribute that as soon as we get it.
Well, they have to find something, don't they?
They took their time, and they spent 5 months conducting an audit. So to say it was thorough would be an understatement.
Good job, Rick.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll wait till the report comes in.
Anything else? Or?
That's my report, Mr. Chairman. I can.
Okay. I'd like a motion for us to go into executive session right here so we can discuss the collective bargaining agreement.
Mr. Stover?
I'll second.
Mr. Brooks?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We'll be in executive session. I can't imagine it's going to be more than 10 or 15 minutes. And obviously, we'll have business to conduct afterwards.
10:23.
Go upstairs.
Call the meeting back to order. I need a motion to come out of executive session.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are back in session. While in executive session, the board discussed the union contract, the CSEA contract that we've been negotiating for a year or so. We have looked at it and not on merit, but we have certainly agreed to the salary part of it. We agree. We had a problem with both salary increase and an increase in the longevity increments. Thought we just couldn't afford it budgetarily wise, so we'd like to adopt the contract, and it has nothing to do with merit. It just has to do with the finances of the organization at this time. So we'd like to adopt the contract as written without Section 4. I need a motion for that, or any discussion?
No, I'll make that motion.
Mr. Bergstresser?
Is there a second to that?
Mr.
Second.
Stover?
Any further discussion?
Make the motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Second motion to come out of the executive session. We would like to, there's a budget bulletin from the state authorizing 2% general salary increases for management staff, and we'd like to propose a 2%. They have not, I believe there's been no raise in 6 years for management staff. So we would like to propose that we adopt the state's program of the 2% general salary increase.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
A second.
All in favor? Any further discussion? I'm sorry.
Second one?
Tony.
Tony, thank you.
Any discussion?
Mr. Meadow?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Okay, we're on to number 9, contracts. Resolution, I think that's
me.
you.
All right. I did the first. We sent the board members electronically a copy of a memo as well as resolutions for both the next 2 contract items. The first one listed is the resolution to accept GEI's scope work and fee proposal for Conklingville Dam. There's also a paper copy that I handed out just in the event you didn't get the electronic copy. Background information on this is the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission requires an independent consultant safety inspection. They occur every 5 years. This is the 3rd independent consultant safety inspection due to FERC by the February 1st, 2015. Back December last year, the board authorized staff to procure engineering services, and then in June, At the June board meeting, the board conditionally awarded the independent consultant safety inspection work to GEI Consultants. And GEI has submitted its proposal. They propose to use Lee Wooten, who, as the independent consultant. Mr. Wooten is a New York registered professional engineer with 34 years of dam engineering experience, also specializing in soil mechanics, and has completed numerous Part 12 safety inspections and has been recognized by FERC as an independent consultant. So certainly is well qualified for the work. The scope of services otherwise include a site visit, necessary investigations and studies, and producing a draft and progress and final inspection report, as well as following up with additional information requests with FERC if there are any. GEI proposes to complete these services for a not-to-exceed price of $24,428. A copy of their proposal, which was fairly lengthy, and I did not issue it in paper. So if you do need a copy of that, you didn't get the electronic copy, I'll give it to you. I think it was 70 pages long, the proposal.
It's all of that, yeah.
Most of it is resumes and qualification kind of related backup, but I can get you another
Anybody
copy
wants
if you
a
do
piece of-
need it. Otherwise, staff recommends acceptance of GEI's
Somebody wants to look at it.
proposal to complete the third Part 12 independent consultant safety inspection at Conklinville Dam, and seeks board authorization to form a contract for the completion of work and authorization for the executive director to execute agreement in the amount of $24,428.
Can I have a motion?
I move to accept.
Mr. Rosenthal.
Second, that's second, please.
I'll second that dam inspection.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried.
Thank you. The next contract item was
Need to add one, yep.
Hawkinsville Dam remediation and removal final study related to that final study project. There was also a paper copy as well as previously an electronic copy of the memo and resolution and backup material issued. Kleinschmidt has completed the study at Hawkinsville to evaluate and compare the remediation and the dam removal. As mentioned previously, both those options are being considered as means for bringing the dam into compliance with DEC's safety regulations. You might recall, while completing the project, Kleinschmidt was authorized to update a hydraulic model, a modeling effort concerning the spillway design flood, as well as the hazard classification for the dam. And as a result of that modeling effort and the request for the reclassification, we were able to reduce the spillway design flood significantly, and that allowed us to reduce significantly the amount of work that would be necessary to remediate the facility. And in fact, comparing our previous effort, the preliminary evaluation of a remediation to the current Kleinschmidt remediation, and the difference between those two being the need to pass the 21,400 CFS as compared to the current hazard classification spillway design flood of 14,000. The difference between those two proposed remediation efforts results in a potential savings of approximately $900,000 in between the two probable costs that have been developed for the project. So it was certainly, I think, a good investment. The staff requests board authorization to increase the project budget to cover the cost of that additional hydraulic work, which was done. It was out of scope at the time that it was completed, and so we're looking to increase the total contract price to $97,750, an increase of $6,770.
Any questions? Comments?
My understanding basically is their effort, which was outside the scope of the existing contract, may give rise to additional savings, and they did so within their expertise.
Correct.
And frankly, should get paid for engaging that expertise on behalf of the district.
Yes.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
We need to-
Motion.
Oh, we need to, what?
Yeah.
Who made the motion?
Well, yes.
It was so
to-
quiet,
to
we didn't
accept
catch
the-
it.
To accept the proposal from the
Mr.
county.
Birchester was the first?
Yeah, I
Made the
guess.
motion and the
I'll
second
second
was
it.
Mr. Rosenthal.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Staff reports. Mr. West.
Well, as Mr. Clark suggested, I had planned to say a little bit about our meeting in Jefferson County. Myself, the executive director, and the chief fiscal officer went up to Jefferson County, met with the county attorney, the chair of the county legislature's finance committee, and the county administrator to assess the county's authority to foreclose upon National Grid properties subject to unpaid regulating district assessments. We had a good meeting. The county attorney came up with a number of alternative theories to pursue the foreclosure. We urged him to go forward with the simplest of those, which is you didn't pay us, and therefore we can take your property. They're doing the preliminary work, but they need to do that, and will get back to us to give us an assessment. I'd note that the plaintiffs' personal injury suit in the Kenny and Ruggiero matter have discontinued their suit against the regulating district, leaving Saratoga County and someone else, forget who, on the hook. But they've let us go, which is good because we didn't have any involvement. Other than that, I'm available to answer any questions that may come up.
Nothing new on the lawsuits, Erie, and all that?
We're nearing the, well, we haven't heard anything from Erie yet. I think our motion and their motion, cross motion, is basically to make each other go away. Comes at the end of July. The NIMO suit also comes at the end of July, where we will make a motion seeking to have that go away. There hasn't been any other movement on anything else.
Any questions for?
No.
Mr. Ferrara, you're up.
Mr. Chairman, my report can be found on pages 27 to 46, and it's a truncated report due in large part to fiscal June has closed only on an interim basis. We're putting together some of the reports required for the independent auditor to come in and perform the field work, I believe, scheduled in August. As such, but you will not see the financial summary in this report. I'll give you a interim, well, by September we should have a fairly closed June at that point. I'll touch on a couple of things. First, as I've indicated in the past, we use the contract reports that I have on page 31 and 32. I believe 31 of the contracts, legal contracts, and on 32 are the other engineering and miscellaneous contracts. And I point this out to the board because public authority law requires there to be an annual review of contracts. And instead of doing a formal annual review, I provide the board on a monthly basis the contracts, and I just want to stress to the board that you should look at those contracts, look at their negotiated not to exceeds, where we're at in terms of spend, and we'll use that monthly review which is, I think is far more comprehensive, and you get to look at it every month versus the annual review to satisfy that section of public authority law, which on the top of my head eludes me. I'll get that if anybody needs it. And then also, again, with the close of the fiscal year, there's a lot of stuff going on to prepare for the field audit, and we have a new independent auditor, so there's going to be a little bit of general information that the previous auditor would not have requested on their second, third, or fourth audit. So we're trying to get that stuff together so we can expedite the facilitation of the audit, so we have an audit for the board to review in September, so we meet another requirement of public authority law. And unless the board has any other questions, that's what I have.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Fulton.
Thank you. My report begins on page 47, I believe it is. In the Hudson River area, the month of June, we had above average precip again, and as a result, I had at Sacandaga we had 186% of historic average inflow to Great Sacandaga Lake, and about 108% at Indian. And obviously in response, we made releases that were above historic average, 173 and 128% of historic average respectively. Trying to get rid of as much water and get right back down to our target elevation at Sacandaga and Indian. At Sacandaga, we're about a foot over the target currently, and 0.7 of a foot at Indian Lake. Making some decent headway now that July it's certainly dry and drier, and even though we do get the storms, they're short-lived, so it's fairly easy to push those reservoirs back down. And
I've been asked by the other board members to ask you where we're storing all that excess water.
Why or where?
Where, yeah.
Same location as always. Huh? And the graphs that are included at the end of my report certainly reflect the 2 or 3 storms and significant inflows since the kind of the end of the refilling in May at each of our reservoirs. And how we have, what kind of response the reservoirs give us in terms of response to precip. Black River area, we're about 1 3/10 feet above our target at Stillwater. Again, in Stillwater and Black River area, we had above average precip, averaging about 125% of historic, and just over average, 100% of average historic inflow, and also making above average releases to bring that down, back down to target. So I'm certainly glad to take any questions if there are any on operation.
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thanks. Thank you.
John.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My report starts on page 77. Let's see. Attended the annual Black River Area Watershed Conference, myself and the executive director, and that was up at Tug Hill Vineyards. Attended the annual Federal Energy Regulatory Commission inspection at Conklinville Dam. I attended the annual New York State Safety Dam inspection at the Stillwater Dam. And I've asked the maintenance foreman and field superintendent, maintenance foreman Hudson River area and the field superintendent at the Black River area to stay in contact with our New York State Insurance Fund for monthly safety training involving all staff members. And let's see, Black River field office staff and myself attended an operations meeting with engineering staff up to Stillwater on upcoming projects that we're going to do in-house at the Stillwater Dam. And we've also discussed some projects for the Conklinville Dam that we're going to do. That's all I have. I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Okay, we're at number 11. Board member questions and comments?
I have one. I'm a new member, and I've been trying to wrap my arms around a whole number of issues. And first I want to confess that having been on the lake, my wife's family, since 1962, and our own home since 2002, there is a lot to learn. And one of the things I'm trying to wrap my arms around and get a little better understanding is the Reservoir Operating Agreement, how that all comes about, what its import is, what its meaning is. I don't know who can answer that, but I hope someone can start to help
Well,
me.
in a very general sense, the Reservoir Operating Agreement it's a contract. It's separate from the apportionment of downstream beneficiaries on the Hudson River. And again, we're talking about the Reservoir Operating Agreement for Conklinville Dam and the E.J. West Powerhouse. Essentially what the agreement does is establishes a term of the contract and the operating parameters and just as importantly, the payment schedule to the regulating district for the use of the head that is owned by New York State at the dam. It's a fact that staff passes around routinely, but it's not commonly known. There's at full reservoir, actually at the spillway, we've got 71 feet of head. 56 feet of that is owned in the name of the state of New York. The agreement is intended to acknowledge and compensate the regulating district on behalf of the state for the use of that head.
The use of the 65 feet?
56 feet.
The 56, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I got it back.
It has been in place for, I'm not exactly sure, I believe that there's several iterations and renewals of that contract going back to, it's got to be the 30s, 1930s.
New York Power and Light, I believe.
Yep.
Correct.
We also, it's a different animal, but we also have one of those, a similar name anyway, agreement at Stillwater Reservoir, because there is Mercer Hydro immediately adjacent to Stillwater Reservoir Dam. The one at Conklinville for E.J. West, that reservoir operating agreement, currently in its form, there's an amendment that extends the term of that contract till, I believe, the end of the year of 2021. I think it's the end of the year. Right now, for this year, we realize about or just shy of $1.1 million. There is an escalator that of 3% that we will.
A nominal escalator.
It's small. There's a 3% escalator, so it will, compound that over the next 7 years. The number will go up.
Just went up effective July 1.
Now, right. So we're over 1.1.
Right, we're at 90,000 and change a month. 98,000.
So it's whatever that works out to.
You got to simplify it for me because I'm such a small-minded person. You're saying that the state pays something for the benefit that it's from its...
hydroelectric plant.
I mean, the hydroelectric plant pays for the benefit that it derives by virtue of that wall called the Conklinville Dam.
That's correct, and it's separate from, and it was not subject to, thankfully, the litigation that we suffered, at least the judgment that we suffered that removed our ability to assess for operational costs based on head, the old method of the Hudson River apportionment of beneficiaries. When that all went bye-bye in 2008, this remained as a separate agreement.
Okay.
So the bottom line is right now we do realize it's a significant component of our income. I think the general opinion amongst the senior staff is that the amount that that contract is at and what is projected to be at the end of the contract is not, probably doesn't reflect the full value of
Exactly.
the head that is used on a daily basis by Brookfield Power, Erie Boulevard. Would we want that? Would we recommend that when we, if and when we get to the point where we renegotiate that? The basis that the best basis I see is a straight proportion. I mean, absent anything else, it's very clear and it's deeded 56/71 of that head. That height of water at the dam is owned by the state of New York. So however we get to that in the future, it has to be somehow structured around that figure. And there's certainly more work to do on it. And again, keep in mind, that's a component of our budget. It's significant. It's over $1 million. Were it more, one of the things that it could be used in many ways, not the least of which would be potentially to reduce assessments downstream to the counties that they pay for flood protection. That's one possibility. That would really come about as how much it was reduced is really going to be reflected in what the next contract looks like.
Present contract minus the extension, when was that due to be expired?
Next year. Right, 16 or 15?
15.
Next year.
And that's with the extensions?
No, and then there was an extension beyond that to 2021.
There was a contract extension that was a result of a.
There was a lawsuit that Erie brought against us with regard to their assessments in 2000, and then again in 2001, 2, 3, 4, and 5. In 2006, Erie entered into a settlement agreement with the regulating district to extinguish that suit, and we agreed to do a number of things. They agreed to do a number of things. One of the things that we agreed to do for them was extend the reservoir operating agreement by 6 years, from the end of 2015 to the end of 2021.
Okay.
We have commenced a lawsuit against Erie regarding our obligation to pay refunds to Erie for the headwater benefit determination that they won as a result of the Albany engineering suit. And we have claimed in that lawsuit that Erie gave up the right to those refunds because of the release they signed at the same time that they entered into that settlement agreement.
Okay.
If the release is not given credence, why should the
Contract extension
be given credence? And at $4 million a year, or whatever they're making off that contract extension, we believe that that's a pretty good reason for them to come to the table.
Okay.
Very good. Any other questions or clarifications needed? Thank you. Next board meeting. I guess we are scheduled for Lau, we haven't discussed changing it. In September, the meeting is September.
September 9th.
Right now, it was tentatively set for Lowell, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
But the board has the option of adjusting that, of course.
Anybody have any feelings about moving it to Boonville, or?
We never get many guests at the Louisville meeting.
Yeah, no, we don't.
No, but I think there is interest from the folks in Hawkinsville. They've expressed that, yeah.
Then let's, I'll entertain a motion to move the meeting to Boonville on September 8th, we said?
Subject to availability.
Subject to availability.
On the 8th, did you say?
Whatever's the 9th, I don't.
Tuesday the 9th.
Tuesday the 9th, I don't have the calendar here. Everybody want to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Mr. Neto,
Second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Bergschwitz.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Mr. Bergschwitz.
All in
Mr.
favor?
Stover.
Thank you, everybody. You stand